It's been a couple of weeks now, well, probably 3 weeks since my last video, and I believe I am done with the epoxy coating on the hull. I've kind of lost track. This is either the 4th coat or the 5th coat, I'm not too sure, but anyway, nevertheless, I believe I have covered the hull with enough epoxy to begin the painting process. So what I am going to do now, like I have done with the previous 4 coats or 3 coats or whatever, is I'm going to do a final sanding. And I had some chatter on our social media sites about, well, should I roll the epoxy on and then tip it with a brush? But what I found is if I roll the epoxy on with a foam roller and then take down the bubbles with a brush, I end up with streak marks. With the foam roller, if I don't tip it off, I end up with this mottled surface, and it's kind of hard to tell. I'm gonna see if I can get the light just right. There, you can kind of see it where the light is reflecting. So you can see these micro bumps right here. And that's a result of the roller. But what I find is that these bumps sand off very quickly and very easily with a wet sanding. So that's what I'm doing right now. I've used a number of sandpapers. This one I'm currently using right now, which is a 180 grit here. I've used 220, and I've also used this sandpaper, which is a wet dry paper, and it has an open weave on it, so it tends to last a little longer. This is a 220 grit here. So it's not a difficult concept. It's not difficult to do. Bucket of water, a wet rag to apply the water. And the reason you wet sand it is the water prevents the sandpaper from getting gummed up or blocked up or fouled or whatever you want to call it. The other thing I'm going to use now is these gloves here to wet sand, because I find I'm sanding my skin off. I'm sanding so hard, so I'm going to use these as a bit of a protectant. So this is the final wet sand on the hull before I start to paint it. And again, this is 4 or 5 coats, I've lost track, but it has significantly covered up the mottled painted surface that was there before I started to apply the epoxy. It's not perfect. I could keep building it up, and probably about another 3 coats, you wouldn't see any of this mottling, but I will take care of that with the paint. So this is where we're at right now, and I'm looking forward to start painting. I'm continuing to sand along the sides of the boat here, and you've probably noticed that I'll sand and then I will go over the sanded area with my hand. It's very easy to tell whether you have sanded down enough just by feeling it. So at this part right here, I can feel the bumps, the micro bumps from the roller applying the epoxy. And then back here further, it's smoother. So always test the sanding surface with your hand to see if it's smooth or not. There might be some small bumps here. I'll move this camera down a bit here, there. So right here, I can't feel the sharp bumps, but I can feel a mottled surface. So I'm gonna sand this area some more. The other telltale sign of whether you're actually taking off the bumps is the sound of the sandpaper itself, or the sound of the sanding. So I'm going to see if here's a bumpy area right here. Let me move this back a bit and see if you can hear the difference. So there's a bumpy area and here's a sanded area. So when I start to sand, you get that sound. And I'll run my hand over it to see if I can feel any imperfections. There's still a little bit there that I need. And then you can hear that. So you can actually hear the sandpaper taking down these sort of micro bumps because the pitch is higher. And as you keep sanding, the sound of the sanding, the pitch sound will lower. And again, I keep running my hand over. So it's easier to tell which parts need more sanding just by touch. And I'm using a combination of circular motions and horizontal and vertical motions. So I'm going to keep going, and I will be back when it's painting time.